Hello, everyone. We are live. It's round five. I am joined with someone who I have quite an interesting history with. His name's Owen McDonald. He is a quite notable person on Twitter in the communist and socialist community. You can introduce yourself if you'd like to do so.
All right. S-Man's been very generous with this opening statement. I wouldn't call myself a notable person in the in far left circles, but yeah, I do post on Twitter a lot. I do post on YouTube and stuff, and yeah, I'm on the far left. We're here to discuss a number of topics that we've sort of disagreed with over various platforms. And yeah, hopefully it'll be interesting to listen to.
Yep. Disagree would be an understatement of the century here, but the topics we have lined up are capitalism, immigration, fascism, and Black Lives Matter, and how to deal with fascists, of course, and police brutality, as that is something we have strongly, to put it one way, disagreed on how to handle or the issues at hand with them. So I guess I'll start off with capitalism. With capitalism, I'm not going to argue that it's perfect, or that it's the best thing since the birth of smooth jazz. However, capitalism on its worst days is better than communism on its best days. The United States, a country that people cite is the example of the problem with capitalism, is more corporatist than capitalist, and the last two Democratic presidents, Bill Clinton and Barack Obama, have bailed out corporations, and NAFTA had begun under Bill Clinton, something that people argue outsources jobs. And that when I hear anti-capitalists go on these diatribes against capitalism, it seems that their true complaint is against the government, not capitalism specifically sometimes. Side note, I am by no means an anarcho-capitalist. When I mention some critique of government, I do have sympathies with them, but I'm not a subscriber to the ideology. Also, by definition, I know communists and capitalists do this a lot. They say that capitalism is an economic and political system in which a country's trade and industry is controlled by private owners for profit rather than by the state. Socialists go on and on about how the workers deserve to own the means of production, but here's the thing: if you were hired to do one job and one job only, that is your purpose and that's what you will do. If you do not like it, tough. There are other jobs, but if that's the only job available, don't rock the boat while you are dispensable. Make yourself more indispensable. Negotiate. People are not willing to do that anymore, and then they wonder why they are stuck where they are. To prevent monopolies, as that is something I've also seen as a common critique, I'd advocate for all companies and corporations to have to compete against each other. They should be forced to survive at the mercy of the consumer, and the government should not intervene in the case of companies surviving at the mercy of the consumer, unless like criminal laws are broken, for instance. Anytime anyone brings up unethical things about companies and the treatment of the workers, to bring it to the attention of the public, I'll use an example, the United Airlines incident. Whether or not you think that was justified what had happened, it caused people and businesses to get out of there. They lost a boatload of money, and their PR tanked harder than W's approval rating. And I know what people will say, but corporations will buy out media when people talk about the media could expose these horrible businesses. Well, you can't buy out all media because you'll run out of money eventually in the process of doing so. And independent media is growing. People are tired of corporate media, aka legacy media, or whatever you want to call them. And the lamestream media's final pages are being written. And don't tell me you can't buy out independent media or all independent media that doesn't participate, in yellow journalism, where it is fact-checked, criticized, and examined just like the old media. And one more thing before I close. What socialists see as market failures, entrepreneurs see as market opportunities. I know I just said a lot there, and I know you'll probably have a ton in response to that, so you can go ahead.
Okay, so you're very right. You did say a lot there, and I'm not sure where to start, really. Let's start with the most glaring thing you said, in my opinion. The idea that the government is corporatist and the society is corporatist and not capitalist. Firstly, let me ask you, what is the difference between capitalism and corporatism?
Okay, the difference between capitalism and corporatism. Corporatism is I define it in my own words as the government bailing out companies and the control of a state or organization by large groups. What I would call for is, like I mentioned, let me go back to the note I just took. Let's see. That as the last, yes, that we shouldn't have the government bail out banks or corporations, that they should survive at the mercy of the consumer. And like the definition said, capitalism is an economic and political system in which a country's trade and industry are controlled by private owners for profit rather than the state. And usually you'll see state-funded, like I'm not entirely against the idea of state-funded things, like I don't take that much of umbrage with, but I don't want the government to intervene in companies that would compete against each other normally. That is, I would set the distinction right there.
So what you're saying is government interference in free markets and in the economy is corporatism. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, so I want to ask you why would the government bail out corporations and wealthy entities which failed to continuously produce and like tail profits and stuff? Why did that happen?
Okay, the reason they would do that is that they have people. They'll fund these people's campaigns to get elected, and once they do so, in exchange for that, they will essentially bail them out, and that essentially is something I do find objectionable. Is that whole thing about these corporate shills that will bail out these companies that don't deserve to be bailed out and that deserve to die, metaphorically, not literally, but you get the idea.
So yeah, you're saying that politics is very much influenced by money, that wealthy corporations back politicians who then have the money to succeed, because obviously a free market, if you're wealthy, you've got much better chances of doing well and controlling things, and subsequently the government plays fiddle to the corporations, essentially. Is that what you're saying there? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So what I'm then going to say is, what are you expecting to happen under capitalism? Is this not the natural outcome of capitalism? Because if we look at what's happened, we see wealthy corporations, as you say, bankrolling political parties, having major lobbyist influence in many decisions, being able to deregulate their respective economies and markets through the government to play fiddle to them and make decisions based on the free market and based upon what their backers say. Hence, the Democrats, despite supposedly being the opposition to the Republicans, having many similar opinions when it comes to healthcare or regulation of certain sectors. This is essentially wealthy capitalists, businesses, landowners, all those sort of elements of higher tier of capitalism, maintaining their power, maintaining their capital, which is the whole essence of capitalism. So I'm struggling to see how there's any difference between the two, when essentially one is you're saying, oh, corporations having influence in government. How would this change under the supposed pure capitalist system? Like, you're essentially like this idea of corporatism is identical to capitalism.
All right, hang on a second. Let me just. All right, so when basically a way I'd get these large interest groups out of the state or government is, and I know if I had, this is just simply saying if I could do this, this is how I would solve the problem. Is find a way to overturn the Supreme Court decision. Let me see if I can find the exact name of it to send you the link to it. But to overturn their decision saying that these corporations giving these fake people, these plastic politicians, all this money for their campaigns, that it's somehow free speech, which it's absolutely not. And I will debate anybody who says otherwise. FEC versus here it is. As I pull it up here, the Citizens United versus the Federal Election Commission, and I'm going to see if I can find the exact court ruling. But yeah, these plastic politicians that replace their hearts with all they care about is the money. And you raised a good point there. The Democrats and the Republicans are not very different. The only difference is some social and economic issues, but they are pretty much one and the same. So in that instance, they are just the same shills that have their hearts removed at probably a young age and just say whatever gets me elected. So the landmark United States constitutional law, campaign finance, and corporate law case dealing with regulation of political campaign spending by organizations. The United States Supreme Court held at a 5-4 ruling. So this was not a unanimous. This was not a popular idea, and it's been absolutely it's been debated and discussed since 2009 and 10 respectively. It dealt with they held it a 5-4 ruling on January 21st, 2010, that the free speech clause of the First Amendment Constitution prohibits the government from restricting independent expenditures for communications by nonprofit corporations, for-profit corporations, labor unions, and other associations. And basically, I'd find a way to overturn it, or, but yeah, like the idea is that these corporations and to find a way to prohibit the corporations and these plastic politicians from finding a way to collaborate with one another is basically what I would try and do. And like when I hear free market capitalism, I'm thinking of little to maybe even no government intervention, and the idea with corporatism as the government is bailing out these corporations, and the plastic politicians are doing what their masters for the wants them to do to get the money.
Okay, so all of that again, ignores the fact that this idea that corporatism is government involvement and stuff. Ignores the fact that this stems from the need of the wealthy under capitalism to protect their capital. So I've written down a lot of stuff that you've said here. You said you want to stop the interest groups and lobbyists from having the power to back politicians with such exceedingly high amounts of wealth. And again, you got to ask, why is anyone going to do that? How are you going to say to someone in the supposed free market, oh well, you need to stop putting money into this relevant sector? They're going to say, well, no, it's a free market. I can do as I wish. Your bill to, for instance, the idea that what was it called? The bill that curtailed, spending in terms of elections and stuff, and backing financial parties. That's part of that's been thrown out already by the Republicans. They've already, this current government under Trump has discarded the financial contributions churches and religious groups can make, which is going to massively benefit people in government right now because they're going to have substantial funding coming in for their party. A free market of capitalism isn't going to be dictated by anything but the free market, and thus to imply that you're going to just somehow curtail it by putting in regulations that will never get through the government because the same people who you want to pass this law are those who were there because of the money of the wealthy. That's not going to happen. Capitalists want to stay wealthy. The wealthy wish to stay wealthy, and the wealthy wish to stay powerful. So under this system of capitalism, within a system that is built by the wealthy, controlled and structured by wealthy capitalists and corporations and stuff, how are you possibly going to say, oh well, we're going to just stop funding like this? We're going to stop the government bailing out corporations. You got to ask why. Why does the government bail out corporations? Because at its core, the state exists to protect capital, to preserve the land and the resources and the means of production for the wealthy. All this stuff about how corporations shouldn't be in politics and how it's not true capitalism because it's not, controlled by 100% free market is irrelevant, really, because it ignores the function of what capitalism is, which is ultimately a mean of controlling and preserving the wealth and power of the ruling class, the wealthy. Organized companies don't just exist or certainly in the form they do today as just for fun. They exist to preserve the wealth and continuously grow and to maintain the capital of the ruling class, the capitalists. And the government is just a way of manufacturing and maintaining that control. It's a way of preserving the system that maintains the capitalist power. So when the economy crashes, as you say, the government bails out these companies and corporations because the government is a tool of capitalism. It's a function of capitalism. And yeah, you could say, oh, it's not true free markets if the government's just using taxpayer money to fund these things. But the government is something that corporations and the wealthy have created as a means of preserving their power. If you look back to centuries ago when governments were replacing monarchies, it was a quote unquote compromise, but really a new form of hierarchy and power for the ruling class. Instead of having just a monarchy and barons and stuff, you've got governments, but governments constituting extremely wealthy landowners. And up until essentially last century, only landowners and the wealthy could vote. It's only recently that we've actually had anyone over a certain age being able to vote. And obviously in America, that's not even technically true, because if you're a felon, but not something that's not exactly hard to be in America, you lose the right to vote. But going back to the point, the idea that corporatism is anything but capitalism, and that capitalism and corporatism have any discernible differences, is false, because it ignores what capitalism is. It ignores the fact that the government and the capitalist system, the corporations, the free market, they're the same thing. They're from the same people, and the wealthy, if you just one day decided, oh, we're going to not have a government, the wealthy and the corporations, that's not going to affect them.
All right. Coming back to what you said about just to quickly point out, I'm fine with felons voting. Just saying. Coming back to what you've also said about, I mean, there's been instances of where people like the dark horse candidates, where they weren't backed by these heartless corporations, and they win, and the people, the plastic politicians, they either win by the skin of their teeth, where it's an extremely close result, or they lose, or they're sometimes voted out. And
yes, but sorry to interject. I feel as though we should sort of focus in on little individual points and then sort of come back to what was said prior, so we don't sort of just have massive monologues, if that makes sense.
that does make sense. So we don't have 525,600 points, but we can only address one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like
Yeah.
we should be more focused on an individual thing.
right.
Those cases of third-party people coming close or winning, or the rare candidates within those parties who weren't party favourites or massively benefited by wealthy donors, they're notable because of how few and far between they are. The fact that we see so few changes in the US government, how few independents there are, people who aren't mainstream parties, is because of the nature of the system. The system does not want the capitalist system does not want people to remove the power of the capitalists. So of course they are going to primarily fund the wealthy. To run an election, to have the ability to get into the government, you need money to advertise, to make yourself known, to be able to afford the publicity and the public eye that gets you into office. And even then, you got to look at how gerrymandered many states are. How people who want change are curtailed into little groups in election boundaries to maintain the status quo, to maintain the power of the capitalists. Every step along the way, capitalism and capitalists are going to maintain their wealth. The wealthy do not wish to lose their power, so going through this system trying to get change is futile often.
Okay. And I want to quickly point out, I don't mean just third-party people. Like, for instance, the senatorial election in Alabama that was held last year, that was an extremely close one, and the fact a Democrat won that was extremely surprising for people. It was a real upset. Some congressional district in Pennsylvania, and those small little elections would seem like a massive waste of time to say, yeah, I'm going to fund some little election where they're just like a little of a congressional district. That's a waste of my money. If I wanted to rig an election, I would either rig a gubernatorial election, or I would rig a presidential or senatorial election, because that would make more money. So as for voting rights, I'm not going to argue that, oh, it's totally fine and perfect. I think that the right to vote shouldn't end just because you're a felon. The right to own a gun should. But I'm sorry?
Going back to before you sort of start going on to a somewhat different topic, going back to Doug Jones and the surprise election of him. Yeah, he's not who was expected to win, but what change is he going to bring to government? if anything, he's actually voted for a lot of Trump's things anyway. He's voted for market deregulation. He's voted for some of the immigration strictenings that he's put through. He's not maybe he's not the Nazi-esque far right Republican who was standing there, but he's fundamentally he's still the sort of person who you would describe as corporatist. There's nothing. This is sort of a point that people on the far left and will make when we say that there's not actually any real difference between corporatism and capitalism. And the only people you benefit by making this distinction is the people who are wealthy enough to be at the top of these corporations in the first place, who are laughing at the fact that you're trying to make distinctions between the fact that it's not a 100% free market. But sorry, you go ahead.
Okay, well, you wouldn't. Okay, by the own standards. So, if something isn't 100% communist, are you going to say it's not communist? Period.
But that's different, though, isn't it? Because when we describe nations as like the USSR or Cuba as not communist, it's because fundamental elements of the system were ignored. So, for instance, workers earn a means of production. Both those countries, and Venezuela, and North Korea and China, and all those countries, they had dictatorships. They had political systems in which there was no alternative. You voted for different members of the same party, and if you didn't, you got put in a gulag or a prison camp and stuff. That's not worker ownership of means of production. That's not the abandonment of political class. The core tenets of communism and socialism and whatever have been ignored. Therefore, it's completely incorrect to say they were communist or whatever system. Conversely, you look at a corporatist, supposedly corporatist society that you're describing America as, and it's still got private ownership of the means of production. It's still got commodification of labor. It still fundamentally is capitalism, because capitalism is not as the key tenets are still there, and the idea that you can distinguish between corporatism and capitalism is different. It's a way of essentially it's saying something is corporatist is to say something is capitalist, really, because the 100% free market is not something which is impeded by a government, realistically. But coming back to what we're saying, I think you raise good points that there are major problems with corporations just putting money into any problem. Like you said earlier, money is the core incentive of lots of politicians who just essentially want to get into power because they get a nice cushy job out of it. They don't care about making good decisions. And that is capitalism all over. That's, people under capitalism function to make profit for themselves, because the system fundamentally is, about making more with what you have. It's about accruing capital, consolidating your power. So why wouldn't people do that?
All right. So coming back to something you said about Mr. Jones, I'm just going to bring this up very quickly. Jones was a better choice than Roy Moore because of the reversal of the mandatory 3 strikes law for nonviolent offenses, which is something that is truly important. He opposes additional restrictions on abortion, such as proposals to ban abortion after the 20 week of gestation, saying the current laws on the issue are sufficient. He's fine with same-sex marriage, criticized the Trump administration's order to ban transgender troops. Defense. I disagree with boosting defense spending, as that was something that makes Reaganomics an absolute joke. Let's see. Healthcare. He opposes the repeal of Affordable Care Act, but calls for changes to the U.S. healthcare system. He's fine with the reauthorization of the CHIP program, the Children's Health Insurance Program, and let's see. Taxes, doesn't call for the increase of taxes, but has called for reductions in corporate taxes to get reinvestment back into the country, but doesn't like the GOP's tax plan, calling it fiscally irresponsible. And the tariffs that President Trump just made are an absolute disaster, and they've proven to be so. As for these plastic politicians, a term I hope becomes common, or if it's not already, my generation, a generation that is a shameful one nonetheless, is going to be. I'm sorry, but it's true. If they're eating Tide Pods and snorting condoms, it's shameful.
That's not a widespread thing.
In America, it feels like it, but
it feels like it.
I digress.
It's like 20 people, maybe.
Who knows? but it's natural selection nonetheless. But coming back to the point, they're going to be eligible to vote. And due to the issue of how the GOP has handled school shootings in the United States, how they have handled certain things, and some states have been safe red for decades. The last time a Democrat was governor in Utah was in the 1980s, when the rise of the Republicans was happening. You know, I think some states or some districts or some locations will turn blue at some point, and since they'll be eligible to vote, they'll be able to vote for a candidate of their choice. And when it comes to elections, as you and I have talked about third parties and their chances of winning, simply put, there's been instances I could bring up of where third-party candidates did extremely well. And simply put, I want people to vote their conscience. Don't vote just tactically. I mean, I can understand tactical voting. Like, if you put a gun to my head and said, choose between Trump or Clinton, I would have gone for Clinton. Didn't like the idea of the identity politics or certain policy ideas. However, the presidency would be a more stable one, and I don't know if she would be protectionist or not, but the United States just got hit with $3 billion worth of tariffs from China a few days ago. And Reaganomics, why it failed is you can't cut taxes and raise defense spending. The problem with Reaganomics is you can't think about the future for it to work.
Right. Drawing us back to what we were saying, plastic politicians and voting third party, and there's going to be chances for young people to vote for non-Republican parties. As we've already said, third party politicians, them doing well is winning a little district or a council seat. The idea of them being a senator or even let alone a president is far beyond them. Democrats and Republicans are very similar. For all the social issues they may be better on, and not even that, because many Democrats aren't actually that different from Republicans. They fail fundamentally when it comes to economical issues and tax reform and corporate spending and stuff. The changes that we need for society to be fairer will not come through a system that fundamentally exists to protect the wealthy, to maintain the power relationship between the ruling class, the capitalists, and the working class, the workers, those who give their labor and stuff.
So, go ahead.
No, you're going to say something.
Okay. Well, I swear to you, I'm not an ANCAP, but couldn't this be used as an argument against the existence of government? That these plastic politicians, that virtue signal, I hate using that term, but it's accurate here, that virtue signal that, we're gonna make changes, we're gonna make America great again, or some nonsense slogan that was ripped off from some other politician. If the abolition of government happens, wouldn't that be better off than having these?
Well, that's exactly what communists and socialists and people like me advocate for: the abolition of the capitalist system, which involves the state, the government that manages that state. They want worker control of these things to thus ensure a society in which the exploitation of the state and of capitalism is ended, and ending that power inequality between the ruling class and the working class.
So if we abolish the government, but let's say we didn't change a thing other than we fade out the government, because it would only work if you fade it out instead of cutting off at exactly midnight tonight. But if you phase it out, and we didn't have these politicians who have these backwards laws, these backwards ideas, these phony wars with made-up enemies like the drug war, the war on terror, and things just to make politicians and the first ladies feel better about themselves. I would say that I would much rather live in an ANCAP society than a communist society. I've listened to various theories. Some people say we stop trading in a period, or we grow our own food, but I don't see that as entirely feasible, but not unimaginable. And I've already we have discussed, but not in full detail, that the anarcho-communists that like people like you have talked about. My issue is that, let's say the approach to, let's say you do overthrow capitalism. Let's say you.
Well, for now, sorry to interject, but What
Okay.
what we were talking about was the fact that the state is the oppressive system here, the state,
Well, yeah.
which is a function of capitalism.
Well, yeah.
Thus, when what the whole sort of point of the initial side track was to talk about why corporatism and capitalism are fundamentally the same thing, because you're describing just a function of capitalism. The state is a function of capitalism, and to bring us on to and like quote unquote anarcho-capitalism, it's not a real thing, not really. If you abolish the government as we know it today, and you allow this power vacuum or quote unquote power vacuum to just a completely free market, what you see is just the corporations, those who own the land, will have the power to do as they wish. There's not going to be any change in your life, bar the sole few barriers left between corporations and doing exactly as they wish to do. You're still going to have a police force to maintain the private property. You're still going to have the enforcement of corporate control. You maintain the control of the means of production and stuff. There's going to be no regulations to impede a corporation, dumping their waste wherever they wish. You're not going to be able to do anything about that because there's now not only is there nothing, there's no there's no sense of control that any worker has, because capitalism is about consolidating power and wealth with the wealthy, with the capitalists, the landowners, the factory owners and stuff.
Okay. Okay.
It's,
Yeah. All right. So, like I've mentioned, I'm not an ANCAP, but from how it's been explained and from what I've read, the ideas of like when people say private, like if all land was private, if you're dumping waste into someone else's like let's say someone bought out a little stake of the ocean, if that was even feasible, and let's say you're dumping waste into someone's stake, like if you're doing that to someone else's, they're going to probably use maybe violence to stop you. Like when it comes to and I can't blame people if you trespass and you're doing something on someone else's property and they shoot you, then that's a fate that person deserved. However, when it comes to for instance pollution of the ocean, I've seen you tweet endlessly about it. Since it's public and nobody owns it, nobody feels the incentive to clean up after it. And a potential solution. I mean, I'm sorry, but it's true. Like
isn't true.
If you see, like for instance, someone's littered on the ground, well, if it's in a public park, for instance, it's not your property. Therefore, you might not feel the responsibility to go pick it up or tell that guy to go pick it up. Well, laugh all you want, my friend, but I mean, at the end of the day, when you see the, and a solution I would have to the pollution of the environment, I would find alternatives like renewable energy instead of using any nonsense like fracking, and prisoners who are serving prison sentences, if they want like a shorter prison sentence, I'd have them go out to the ocean, provided, and this is just a theory, just to be completely honest here, but maybe send them out to the ocean to go and clean it up. And in the state of Louisiana, I'd like to bring up, they will recycle Christmas trees, and they will use that to preserve, protect, and defend the land that is being eroded away due to natural disasters down there in the state of Louisiana. And I've seen a documentary where they're showing how they will put that all together, and it's a great way to prevent the erosion of that land any further. Teglin in the chat says abolish prisons. Private prisons. Private prisons.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Anyhow.
Yeah.
Number of things he said. Firstly, the idea that a corporation is just going to put its waste in another corporation's land is incorrect, because the wealthy wish to maintain their wealth. Thus, they're going to work together and put their dump their pollution and stuff far away from where they are habitated and stuff and living. So it's going to be nearer to workers. It's going to be in areas where they don't feel the effects directly of the stuff they're doing. So it's going to be not going to concern them, and the people who wish to change that are not going to be able to within the capitalist system. The change that's going to come is going to come in spite of capitalism. But going back onto something you said a second ago about pollution, it doesn't happen because people are just inherently bad. or that because people aren't too lazy to stop it. It happens because corporations wish to save money. Thus, it's cheaper to just dump your waste or to do you manage your waste inadequately than to be responsible. It saves money. It makes profit. Thus, it's inherent under capitalism, to do that, to be irresponsible with your waste. You talk about fracking like, oh, it's so dumb, it's so bad. But then at the same time, from the capitalist point of view, it's a commodity that will produce profit if they use it. It's something they can extract profit from to accrue capital. So under a free market, what's stopping them? If it's their land, the corporation acquires it, what stops them in a free market? Who are you to say, as a capitalist, supposedly, oh, well, you shouldn't be doing this because it's bad for the environment? They'll say, oh, well, it's my land. I can do as I wish, and then you could say, oh, well, let's just boycott them. But then when that corporation is responsible for vast amounts of energy, you're not in a position to do that. If you boycott your own energy source, suddenly you can't power your house. Suddenly you're not going to be able to get to work. Suddenly everything that's in your life is gone. That's the whole point of capitalism. It's about concentrating power. In an ideal world, we just stop everything bad happening. But the nature of capitalism is that the people who are doing those bad things have the power to prevent people from stopping them. That's why decades on from understanding what pollution is, we're still seeing massive environmental damage happening every day. We're still seeing massive parts of rainforests being lost. The regulations that we have in the West are ignored by corporations just taking their businesses to deregulated third world nations with governments that are again trying to preserve the wealth of the wealthy and happy to accept their exploitative corporate Western colleagues, because it makes them money. It allows for money to be pumped into the wealthy of that particular nation, and subsequently the corporation treats the environment like terribly in those areas and makes more money from it. You got to realize that the whole system is the problem. Capitalism as a concept, if you can just make profit from anything, that anything can be private property, that anything can be a commodity. That is the problem, because it causes the disregarding of the environment to make money. Like, you got to consider, why do people in full knowledge of the environmental consequence, and disaster that will occur if they continue their policies, continually act irresponsibly with the environment? It's not because they're like some cartoon villain. They're not like actively like, oh yeah, I want the downfall of humanity. It's because they're capitalists and they're using environmental issue. They've seen a commodity to profit out of. They've seen something that can make them more money. And under this system, why wouldn't they?
All right. Like I've mentioned. Okay, so coming back to what you said about like they'll dump it far away, so the workers will feel the effects, unlike them. Well, at some point that would come to bite them in the end, considering that if, like, for instance, let's say they were doing something with like I don't know, oil or something in the water supply, or let's say something nuclear is just an extreme example. That eventually would kill off probably enough workers to where they wouldn't have enough people to essentially rule over, in quotes. And like I've mentioned, when it comes to okay, I'll go on to what you said about private police forces and anarcho-capitalist stuff in a second, but basically I'll put it like this, that when it comes down to these ideals of I'll also address the worker ownership of the means of production, but at the same time, with maybe that is the problem of government with the plastic politicians, like I mentioned, and with these corporations that are like polluting wherever they feel like. People are, if they have the knowledge that these corporations are doing these bad things, but they still go to them, then that's truly their fault. And I can't sympathize with people who know, oh yeah, this corporation's doing something bad, but I'm still going to go there. Like, if you have the ability to avoid it. I'll give you an example. Walmart, as I mentioned in our very first debate a century and a half ago, that if the CEO of Walmart was to take $2 million off their bonus, not their salary, but bonus, everyone at the Walmarts would be able to be covered under some health insurance. And the response you can do is say, all right, screw Walmart, I'm heading to Target, and If you can find a company that's more ethical, you go to it. If you can't because it's the only one there, then that's an understandable justification. But if you have the ability to go to a different one or boycott, but you don't do it, then I can't feel sorry for you. And as for oil, I think eventually we will run out of oil. Eventually, I don't think it's like this nonstop supply. It's been estimated that by maybe 2048, according to some. I'll provide some links if you want to see the Institute for Energy Research. But yeah, I think we'll eventually run out of oil, and that we could use renewable energy like natural gas to deal with things. And coming back to what was it? Well, people have had solar panels on their own houses to provide their energy, and these windmills, which I don't see any environmental issue with solar panels and windmills. And and I'm just saying, if it was me, if I want to make as much money as I can, hell, I'll use windmills and yes, the solar panels, as that's going to, first of all, improve my image to the public, and they're going to be more willing to shop with me, not just because they have to, but because they want to. And for the fact that I would say you could commodify the wind, like with windmills, and the sun with solar panels, and the sun comes every day. It's rather windy here, so I would see it as you could commodify the wind and the sun, and I know that sounds very, very insane, but it makes sense.
Right. Okay. So you're ignoring the sort of essence of what I was saying, which is that if you have land, and on that land you've got resources that, yeah, they pollute the earth, but they'll make you money from it. Why, under a free market, will capitalists in possession of that not use those things? If they're going to make money from it, and capitalism is all about making money, why are they not going to bypass the environmental concerns that will come and arise from this to make money? Let's talk about the other stuff you said here. You said, oh, Walmart do unethical things, so go to Target instead. Like, do you not think Target are also doing the same things Walmart are? Maybe not in the exact same way, but somewhere they're cost cutting because it's a free market. You can do as you wish, basically, and you want to be making more money than your rivals because that's capitalism. So where Walmart are doing something bad, Target are doing something bad elsewhere. And yeah, you could say, oh, take your business somewhere else. But most TNCs, in fact, all TNCs are doing these unethical things. They're, exploiting people in the third world, benefiting from, lax and often non-existent regulation in some part of the world, contributing to the global degradation and destruction of the environment. You can't escape that everywhere you turn under capitalism, wealthy TNCs are, destroying the environment and exploiting their workers. And what's more, taking further and further possession of land and resources because, it's for capitalism, the wealthy want to be continuously growing and maintaining their power. So, of course, they're taking over smaller businesses. Look at Amazon, for instance, 20% of food sales, I think. They control like 20% of food production, I think, or something like that. Let's go on to what you said about how people, it's their fault if they just shop at a place that has unethical things, where like you can't just say to people who are working all the time, they don't have time necessarily to be checking every single thing in a company, and the company's going to lose like $10 from their daily spend. Oh no, like if you're the billionaire who owns Walmart, $10 isn't really that much. If you're and what's more, what's that person going to do? Go to a shop that is also participating in that thing. Every element of consumption under capitalism is unethical in some way or another, be it through environmental destruction, be it through wage exploitation, be it through the exploitation of third world countries to produce cheap labor and thus make more profits. The whole thing is the problem, S-Man.
All right.
And just sort of plastering over it with a little it's like imagine if you had a broken leg, you can't just put little plasters over it.
Well, I know that from personal experience. I've broken my leg when I was a little kid, so I get that analogy. All right, so you absolutely took me out of context when I was saying what I said was if you are able to shop somewhere else, and you have the ability to do so,
but they don't.
For those who can, if you do,
no one can.
Oh yeah, you know all 320 million people in the United States or in similar nations.
Well,
Um,
who's going to go? How are you going to go to a shop that doesn't, participate in the destruction of the environment or exploit their, laborers in another country or something? If you're, how are you going to do that?
I don't buy things that are not made in the United States. For instance, I refuse to buy a lot of things. Like I will check what it is because I'm the buy American attitude. You know, instead of funding some random person I've never heard of.
But that
In
still contributes to environmental, destruction, devastation. Just because it's not using a ship or plane to get here doesn't mean it's not contributing to, destruction of the environment. In fact, American farms are, pretty gross and disgusting when it comes to how they manage the environment. I mean, I've seen some pretty horrific things in American farms, like from
I
footage and stuff.
I have too. I've seen. I was in a science class in the ninth grade, and they showed a documentary which I mentioned in a video response to you, which let me see if I can find it right here for reference. But they showed footage of these slaughterhouses and how bad they were. I think veganism will grow. I think it's definitely going to, and it doesn't need the end of capitalism to do so. Let me see if I can
But
find.
again, why do you think those farmers are treating animals so badly? Are dumping their waste in such hazardous and poor ways? It's not because they're evil. It's because they're capitalists and they're saving money from it and they're improving their capital. You got to look beyond just this happens, but you can do this. You got to think, why is this thing happening within our system? And it fundamentally comes down to the fact that under capitalism, anything is a commodity, and if you can cut corners and make more money, you're going to be better off under capitalism. You know, so every corporation, every element of capitalism participates and involves this unethical exploitation of the land or resources or people's labor or people themselves. You know, like, can you not see that?
I can see that, yeah, corporations. I can see that people act unethically. I can see that, and
And why? Why are they doing that?
because no one's out there showing a better way to go about things, they don't have the incentive to change
About
their
them.
ways.
We've known about climate change and about why dumping stuff, anywhere is harmful for decades. But, it's common sense. Centuries ago, even, we in like what 19th century London, we've worked out that cholera was caused by leaving your water supply in the same place as your waste supply. We know about these harmful
Yeah.
things in the environment. Yet here we are, decades, centuries later, still destroying our planet, based on the fact that people can make money from it. So it's not like people are just idiots. No, I shouldn't use that word actually. It's ableist, and it's like people are unaware. But it is.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Anyway,
Okay. You finally got the criticism I gave you about that. Okay, so aside from that,
people do know
yeah.
that there are problems, and
So,
we'd love to be able to stop it. But the people who own the land, the capitalists, the people who are in possession of the power to change things, they have no wish to do so. They're not going to because it makes them money. It keeps them powerful and wealthy. So once again, I'll ask you, how can you, condone a system like this where it's quite clearly in the nature of the system to continuously just do harmful things?
all right, I'll give you an example. There are some companies that have been rated as very ethical. For instance, Pepsi. I'll use that example. That company has been rated as one of the more ethical ones, and people love Pepsi, despite it being unhealthy. And I know you again laugh all you want. However, there are companies that exist that are ethical. People
So
don't want
Pepsi aren't contributing to the degradation of the environment.
Let me see. Let me find that study, or at least.
Well, they are. More ethical does not mean ethical. It just means more so than their, companies, other companies and stuff. Like Pepsi could be better than McDonald's. That's not saying anything, is it? That's just saying they're better than McDonald's. Also, these things that hand out awards, it's not exactly, it doesn't just because they got an award saying they're ethical doesn't mean that they actually are. It's like
Well, I would say it would depend on what the standard is. Like, what would you define? Like, what standard are you going to set? Is it like
also there's like 20 or so different these bodies that give out these awards. It's like to draw a comparison, look at how many games get game of the year given to them, like how many games like Call of Duty game of the year edition, and there's like 20 other game of the year titles in other games. It's like it's the same thing. But coming back to what we're saying, all these corporations, their main incentive, their main goal The whole point, under capitalism, naturally, is to make profit, is to accrue more capital, is to commodify stuff wherever you can go, try and make more money. So, subsequently, why are they going to place the environment over making more money? And you said it's absurd to just continuously destroy stuff. It's absurd to just keep using oil and keep destroying the environment because we all live on the same planet, and it is absurd. But that is capitalism. Capitalism is about maintaining power. So despite the clear nonsensical manner of just going about stuff, it's still happening. You talk about how workers, if they get negatively affected by this, which they obviously are going to be, they'll have no one to work at their factories. Why do you think automation is so scary to so many people? Because it turns out if workers are placed by robot machines under capitalism, suddenly vast masses of people are not going to have any means of providing for themselves, not afford the food and stuff they need, and just die off because they're just going to not have the means to survive. The whole situation of the planet is linked back to capitalism. I think that's what you need to see. All these things you're saying are ignoring the key problem with the system at its core.
Well, I will say in response to that with automation, who would fix the robots and those other robots? And it'd be an endless cycle of who's going to fix the robots that fix the robots, and you can go on all day. The Conundrum says in the chat, the ozone layer was vastly depleted due to the 1980s with hairspray that was used because the cans had too much aerosol in the cans. I believe that is correct, as that was said. And I've had chats with people to get their perspective, to see if my perspective was fine. For instance, Colton Ham, the left-wing pro-capitalist, he mentioned an interesting point that what if socialism might become superior to capitalism if automation happens? And I'm not trying to misquote him or make him sound like a secret socialist, but that if you have automation, that eventually those people might protest, and but
again, protest is beyond. That's not a thing of capitalism, is it? That's the whole sort of point we're saying. We don't need to have all the years of capitalism and then socialism. Why not go from capitalism as soon as possible? But going back to what you're saying about how people, robots might break and we need people to fix them. The whole point of improving technology is to not need human labor to do it. The whole point of automating stuff is to replace thousands of workers with one machine, and thus replace the people to fix that machine with another machine. And of course, you keep saying it. You say, "Oh, it's a cycle," and yeah, it is a cycle because the ultimate goal is to eliminate the need for the human to dedicate their labor to it. And in a non-capitalist sort of, that'd be brilliant. That'd be I don't have to go to the factory and work anymore because the robot can do it for me. I can spend time, enjoying what I want to, having leisure, indulging in information and education and stuff, spending time with my family. But instead, it's, oh no, I'm not going to be able to feed myself. My rent's going to be unpayable because I have no job. And, it's a major threat. It shows the backwards nature of capitalism, that the advancement of technology is an actual threat to humanity and not an improvement. And that's because our system is fundamentally unfair. It's based around the commodification of labor. The fact you have to sell your labor to a capitalist to survive. You've got to let the capitalists profit off your labor in exchange for a living, and not even that, because look at how many people don't afford rent or healthcare or all these things. But going back to what we're saying, about the environment and stuff, you've got to ask, why are corporations and people today still massively contributing to the destruction of the planet, the destruction of the rainforests and the pollution of the ocean and the air and stuff? And it's because of capitalism, because of the fact that the system is about making money, about commodifying everything, trying to make profit from it, and improving your capital. And you gotta, it always comes down to that.
All right, I will say this: that what about smaller businesses? Like I mentioned with media, and I'll use that analogy. Smaller businesses, they would have less of an ability to do what those corporations would do.
What do you mean?
By smaller businesses, okay, I'll use an example. In the state of Utah, for instance, and probably other states, we have like these little grocery stores, or little convenience stores, and sometimes these little malls, instead of these giant corporations.
Yeah. they're better. You know,
Why not use them?
they're not using the global thing. But again, firstly, you've got to look at the fact that those things are dwindling because of the funneling of wealth and power to the top. Secondly, many of those there's corporations and stuff, there's little businesses, they're still contributing to the negative things. They're still not, they don't exist in a vacuum. They're still participating in a system of exploitation and of pollution and stuff. Like, for instance, using the computers we have here, why look at the harm that's being done in Africa to the natural resources to attain sorry to attain the resources found in computers. Look at what's happening in Southeast Asia on coastlines and stuff, where the sea is just littered with horrific amounts of waste and pollution. Every element of capitalism is affected here. So it's not like these small businesses just rise out of the ground and are like, oh yeah, we haven't used any of the stuff, we're just here now. They still participated in that system, and it's not it's not necessarily a fault of their own. They can't help but participate in it because everyone has to. You don't, you die, or you don't exist, so you have to participate in capitalism.
All right.
It's the whole thing is the problem. There's no and there's no actual there's no actual escaping the fact that every element of capitalism is problematic in the sense that it destroys the planet to attain more commodities. And again, I'll bring you back to the fact that the core conceit, which is that the Earth, the sole planet we have, is being torn up and destroyed like a commodity because of a system that commodifies every element of life and says anything can be profited out of, anything can be used to accrue more capital. You can't escape that if you're going to stick with capitalism. That's the whole point.
All right, and coming back to when you kept bringing up automation, and I like the enforcement of the idea of 1 point at a time. By the way, okay, so the reason why machines will not be used in labor, as the conundrum rightly points out, is because people have the fear of machines becoming self-aware, and I have seen, and it's been all over the news when people mention, oh wow, they're considering whether or not this robot should have the same rights humans have, which they obviously should not. So this is not some conspiracy theory that I have my tinfoil hat on and say, yeah, these robots are going to become self-aware. There are people that are trying to have robots become self-aware, and who's to say that they wouldn't? It's like a main reason, as the conundrum rightly says, that machines will never be used to do all our labor and functions because of the question. Most scientists are always they're becoming self-aware and would revolt. And who's to say that it wouldn't be absolutely disastrous? And like I said, that unfettered capitalism, that it would most likely eat itself up. And I think you'll probably like this analogy I came up with yesterday, that I guess you would describe capitalism as like a piece of wood. The money is the gasoline, and the private ownership of the means of production or something could be like a spark, and that it will burn it. The capitalism, I guess you could say, would burn itself up, as to how you'd say it, would burn itself up if you don't, and no matter how much retardant, like anti-flame material, just to be clear as to that word, that no matter how much of that you put down, that eventually it will be eroded away, and that that the system will still burn itself up. Is I guess like what you're trying to convey.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Capitalism is naturally not going to last forever. It's going to go at some point. No one's in denial of that. However, the whole point is that we live on the planet in which capitalism is negatively affecting. To use your analogy, we live on the wood. We're like wood lice that are found in the little cracks and stuff. If a block of wood is burnt, we're going with it because we live there. Same thing with this. It's all very well saying, oh, eventually it will just go away, and yeah, it will. But how much of a planet is it going to take with it? Already we've lost quite a bit, and we can't afford to lose much more. Going back to what you said about automation, it's all very well saying people are afraid of change and of the machines, becoming self-aware and going too far and stuff. But under capitalism, again, the person who is afraid of change is the person who's going to lose to someone who's not and values their profits over their fear of robots, and subsequently, goes for it. Imagine 100 years ago, the introduction of cars and better transport and electricity and the first computers, and imagine all the dystopian fears people had about that. And now the people who invested then, the wealthy who went beyond traditional forms of stuff and will put their money into those businesses like technology and stuff, are incredibly wealthy. So you have a stupendous amount of money. So again, this idea that automation won't consume so much of life is, I think, quite naive to say that technology just has a limit, because we're always getting better. Imagine 20 years ago looking at computers and phones and cars and all the stuff we had back then, and looking at how and saying, oh yeah, in 20 years time you're going to have phones that don't need to have massive wiring or connected to a landline, or they've got touch screens and stuff. Imagine saying, oh, you've got computers that can hold like terabytes and more of data. And when back then you could have like a sentence or something, or a massive, you had to have like massive amounts of power going into it. Technology is always improving, and under capitalism, this is harmful for the workers. But under non-capitalism, this becomes a positive, because we can utilize technology for humanity's as a whole advancement. Imagine, like I said, if people didn't have to worry about where their next meal was going to come from, and instead could just enjoy what they wanted to, and could work where they wished to, and put their time into stuff they're actually productive in, and thus benefit society even more. Like, imagine if the people working in factories today could achieve or pursue what they wanted to, not having to worry about whether they would be able to feed themselves at the end of it. But coming back to what we're saying about the environment and stuff, and about the world itself, we only have one planet. If we mess this up, then we're done, basically. And under this current system of commodifying life, of making our planet a commodity to be profited off, and to just essentially see the world as a series of transactions, we lose so much of life. We put the planet at risk and at the mercy of the capitalists, the wealthy. So it's not only is it illogical, it's also outright harmful, really. And it's not about I get the impression with a lot of interactions with right-wing people on social media and stuff, I get the impression it's a bit of a game to a lot of them. It's just, look at the memes, you commies, just a joke and stuff. But no, it's about the welfare and well-being of the planet and everyone who lives on it.
All right. Well, to quickly point out, I don't treat this as a game. Just to be honest, because yes, I don't treat politics as a game, because it does affect people's lives. Like I said, that if these corporations, if they don't shape up, I do believe that they would be overthrown pretty quickly, and that they'd be overthrown very quickly if they don't shape up, and I'd be fine with that if let's say what you're saying happens. I would be absolutely fine with the overthrow of these corporations, and I'm not saying I'm in favor of capitalism to the point where I will execute people who dare criticize it or against it. I'm just saying I think it is at its worst probably better than socialism at its best. And
it needs to surely you can see, though, you don't need to say, it's better than this and that and the other. Surely you can see that right now, on a basic level, something is seriously wrong with a system that commodifies life to the point where we're destroying our planet to make money, where corporations can just do as they wish without regulation, and the second something happens to regulate them, they jump ship to another country and do the same thing, all in the pursuit of money, as the system says. And going back to what you said a second ago, overthrown, if you're talking about overthrowing companies, that's not capitalist at all. That's not a free market. That's worker solidarity. And it's something I agree with, personally. I think that we should be seizing the means of production for the workers, and obviously overthrowing capitalism and stuff. But fundamentally, I don't think you as a person are you're sensible. You're not going to be saying, oh yeah, just let anyone do as they wish, just let's destroy the planet to make money and stuff. But at the same time, you're blindly clinging to a system which is contributing to the destruction of the planet. And there's a disconnect there. because you're aware enough to know of the clear problems the environment faces today, yet you're not analysing it enough to see that fundamentally these stem from a system which has commodified the planet to enable this.
All right. Quickly to answer a question in the chat, Esper asks me if I'm well, it's a question related to this. No, I'm not advocating left-wing violence of saying they'd be overthrown quickly. I'm just saying what will most likely happen. But
you could answer my questions first.
Okay, yeah. Okay, but blindly clinging to a system, I'm not blindly clinging to it. I'm just saying that I don't like, because whenever we talk about this issue, like I'm just gonna say, I think this is gonna go in circles. So hopefully we can. So after this, we can head to the next topic because this could really go in circles. That, like I said, with these awful, shitty corporations doing these terrible things, is if you can find a way to not use them, don't use them. If you can't, hang on. All right, well, because I have the ability to find out where something is where it's made, and to find out the history and track record of that product I want to buy. If it's from some third world country where a kid most likely lost, like, I don't know, 3 or 4 of his fingers making the headphones I'm using to listen to you talk, I'd say, okay, I don't want to buy that. However, at the same time, that if I don't, those people that are forced to manufacture the headphones will have to take shittier work for shittier pay. So it is something that I do consider. And like I've said, that people that can do the research, find out where something is made and where it comes from, if they can do that, but they don't, then I can't. Then if they're complaining about the issue at hand, it's like, what do you want? Like, if you're not willing to find other places to use, then, but like you can, but you're not going to, then I can't feel sorry for you. It's like actually that's where I would leave it off at.
Okay. So just going back to what you said, if you'd look at where your product's coming from, which makes sense. But how would you look? How would you find out? Like, how are you going to find out this information? What are you going to use?
Oh, it's very simple. It's this thing called Google. I'll also
What's Google on?
What do you mean? What's it on?
What device or platform, or use a computer or a phone, right? And where are computers and phones made?
Some are made here, and some are made in other countries. And materials for phone. Some are metal. Some are different types of glass or plastic.
Yeah, that's all correct. Silicon and stuff, like all those minerals and stuff. Where do they come from?
I see where you're going.
Yeah. Do you understand what I'm saying? There's no way of escaping this. You mean you're going to boycott silicon because it all comes from African, southern African, mines where they're using like kids and stuff to go and get them diamonds and stuff. You're gonna like boycott the shipping of these things, but like gives you half of the stuff that you have in your house probably. Like, can you see what I'm saying? There's no escaping the fact that every,
Well, yes, I see what you're saying. I would say this, that some people, like, let's say I found it so objectionable. Well, I would never buy technological products as long as I could. And I know you're gonna laugh. Oh, it's simple. I've done it the majority of my life. It's only been the last few years.
You were born in a hospital.
No, I was born in the backyard. Yes, I was born in a hospital.
Yeah, exactly. And in the hospital, you to help you be born, there was stuff that was made using the same materials that came from another country through that exploitation. Like, do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
and element of your life from your birth, before your birth even, to now. It's like it's all part of the system. It's all part of this, consumption, which is unethical.
All right. Even under your proposed system, how will these things be made?
But that's not answering what I said. That's not in view with the actual point. Which
actually, yes, it does. Yes, it does, because considering the fact that under the system that we have now, that these things are made by going into these mines in southern African countries and taking these minerals to make these products. How would your system that you propose do this? How would they make these products? And before our birth, Actually, never mind that. Actually, I have no. I'm with the products they used before our birth. Those who's to say that some of these are not made in the country? Who's to? I mean, unless
Well,
you
you
check
said
every.
you said you'd look up the products and see where they're from. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
um, and
and if I
they're
found out,
from.
yeah, if I found out that this
But
computer, if I found out, oh, it was made from Africa, okay, well, I don't want to endorse that type of thing.
it's
Therefore, I
too
won't.
late, bro. If you found out already that you bought
Then I wouldn't
you,
buy. Yeah, I wouldn't buy a computer like that ever again.
you just scrap your house of everything that was in those countries.
Some people do it. Some people have these, minimalist
And
lifestyles.
what about food?
What about food? Well, I can try and have a green thumb and grow my own food. Therefore, I don't do anything unethical and
How are you going to grow food?
buy seeds and you never and I've been able to do it. I've been able to grow fruits and vegetables.
Where do you get your water from to water your plants?
Depends on where I do it. If I'm doing it here, I will simply go and take it from the tap. If it's somewhere else, then
But what I meant was like tap. Where's the water from the tap coming from?
I don't know every single location it comes from.
Of course,
but
I'm not expecting you to have like a complete knowledge of the
the water supply of the city and so
do you think that's ethical? Do you think that the consumption that's delivered for water from the reservoir or the what's it called, the glacier or whatever, to the city to you, do you think that has all come through clean distribution? Do you think the environment has not been impacted at all? That's what I'm saying. There's no way of escaping the the capitalist system, the exploitation, the unethical nature of it. That's why we are so critical of it, because everywhere you turn, there's people trying to make money by negatively affecting the environment and the way things are. Even if you were to take this minimalist approach of drinking water from streams and picking berries from the forest, you still like people aren't. That's not a good way to. That's not something I imagine you would do. It's not something I would do. There's better ways. Instead of instead of expecting individuals to do this, we should be, as a system, as a collective, saying no, this is not fair or good. We can make a system where we don't have this massive destruction of the environment, where corporations can't just destroy the planet to make money, where we put money, instead of allowing it to just sit unspent by billionaires at the top and by corporations, we can put it into finding better ways of producing electricity, investing in methods that don't require the exploitation of the third world, having a system where the third world isn't just the dumping place of corporations to make cheap labor and stuff, but are equals and just people from another country or another region even.
well, okay, yeah. I mean, I do see Africa as another continent, but that's just me. And unspent billions or however much money they have, how do you plan on taking it from them? Like, how would you take it from them? Because this is something I've also wanted to come on to, besides just why the workers should own the means of production. But before we head to the next topic, because this could go on forever. But if you it depends. Like, if you're going to take this money back, which you said that money is it's either you or I think it was you who said money is a social construct, and if it is, then what's the point of taking money if I mean, if it's
some things are social constructs, it doesn't have an effect on real life.
Of course, but if you're treating something like money, how would you take the money back then? Would you burst into this person's residence and execute them if they don't give you this? What are you gonna do? Are you gonna take I'm not trying to troll here, but seriously, how would you plan on taking the money back? Are you gonna be violent? Or are you gonna be
it's not like it's all going to be done by just me. I'm not saying I have all the answers for how a revolution is planned out, but
and you're expecting me to have all the answers to this?
Well, no, of course not. But there's a bit of difference between the saying how exactly is a revolution going to pan out and asking someone to defend a system that is fundamentally flawed. And it's not like I just thought up all these ideas by myself. I've done
of course,
listened to a community of people that all say the same things. I've looked at the world. And
okay.
in terms of redistributing and seizing control of the means of production and stuff, it comes through global revolution, because ideally, we would just say, this isn't fair, and it will just go away. But we both know that's not how life works. The wealthy and powerful are just going to say, oh yeah, let's not be powerful anymore, and give it away. And revolution probably would be violent, and probably would involve some force, because these things aren't just going to go away. But it's a question of, is this force justified? And yes, it is justified. It's counterforce against the oppressive nature of the system that is destroying both planet and people.
Are you mentioning like this in reference to like foreign policy, for instance?
Well, not just that. I mean, obviously, but not just that. It's the oppression of the state onto its own people. It's the oppression of a system that denies basic rights, healthcare and home and food and water to its people.
Okay.
Look at the situation that many people in the first world are facing, and even more so in the third world. Look at the way workers are treated in sweatshops in Southeast Asia. It's the whole planet is subject to the oppression of capitalism, and thus using violence to overturn it is not unjustified. If there was another way, of course it'd be great. And the overall ideal is to end the oppression and end the violence stuff. But sadly, you need the exertion of force to prevent the force being exerted onto you. It's like physics, isn't it? You can't just stop something without exerting force. You've got to use your force to equal the other force and thus stop the object moving towards you.
All right. Okay, I'll say it like this: that in the terms of the Asian sweatshops, I think they're. I'll say it like this: when it comes to Asian sweatshops, and also to quickly come back, like I said, when it comes to finding it, like if you find out like a product was made in an Asian sweatshop, and let's say you find that out right, and you're like, okay, I'm not going to buy anything from here on out that is from an Asian sweatshop, but I'll like, and you could use the analogy with if you find out a leather jacket was made, like an animal had to die to have that. Well, if you or may have been harmed to get it, if you keep it, but you don't buy anything further that would further contribute to that, then I wouldn't see the real problem. But in the issue with force and with a revolution, is that and like I'm not expecting you to have all the answers, but that whole revolution, would you kill people? That would you kill a rich person? Like, and I'm just gonna maybe ask you, because I know you can't speak for everybody on the left, but if you could find a way to overthrow capitalism and redistribute the wealth and land and all that fun stuff, would you kill a person to do so, to take their money and redistribute it to the disenfranchised?
Okay, so start from just not before I come to the main point. But you said, if you find out something's made in an Asian sweatshop, boycott it. As we found out earlier, it's a lot more difficult to boycott an entire system when that system has control of every single element of your life. So it's one thing to stop wearing fur coats, because that's not something you need to live. But when you start realizing that it's more than just that, it's your food, your house and stuff. But to come on to the question of killing rich people, it's very easy framing it as just, you're going to storm into someone's house and shotgun a load of kids and stuff.
Well, I don't mean it like that way, but okay.
You got to look at where the origin of the violence came from. It came on the wealthy capitalist class forcing people to choose between their healthcare and their rent. It came from factories being set up in Southeast Asia and other countries where workers are forced to sweat 18 hours a day in a factory making cheap goods for companies to make billions off back in the West. And then being forced to by private militias, basically. It's America bombing any nation that decides that they don't want to be adhering to American standards, like in the Middle East, like in South America and stuff. It's countless environmental areas being destroyed by a corporation wanting to put its pipelines down across it. For instance, in your own country, America, where Native American land has pipelines put across it, and that's destroyed Native American land, but destroyed their land, in fact. So
Okay. Well,
is killing is it unethical to defend against that by using violence against those people? Yeah, it's justified. And yeah, it's obviously killing someone is a major thing, and I'm not for killing people. But if you're going to ask me, would I kill someone who's got a gun to my head? Am I going to defend myself against them?
obviously.
Yeah. And that is the situation that capitalism forces upon the workers, the people.
Okay. Well, healthcare is not free. If someone has to pay for it or has to find or a way to cover it, it's not free. And something I'd like to bring up is that we have labor unions in the United States. My father's an electrician. He is in a union. Despite the state of Utah sadly being a right-to-work state, but it's redder than the it's as red as meat, so that's not to be surprising. But yes, there are labor unions in the United States, and there have been times where boycotts have helped make change. When the civil rights movement was happening in the 1960s, the 1950s, my apologies there, but after the arrest of Rosa Parks, black people in Alabama boycotted the bus and said, well, we're not taking this bullshit. And after over a year, eventually, with the crumbling state of the bus industry there, and with a Supreme Court ruling to give aid to it, but the boycott itself would have likely led to it anyway, to the change that they were desiring. And with foreign policy, like I've mentioned, the non-interventionism I propose, because I want this country to behave like capitalists instead of executing people and committing war crimes and wasting our money on pointless wars with silly enemies, to find ways to save money. I would save money by cutting the military's budget, the same way that communists want to cut the timeline of capitalism short. For instance, like I said, cut the budget by 40%, sell off weapons we don't need. Actually, I wouldn't even sell them to other nations, most likely, but I would stop buying those weapons, as if we already have them, then we're good. In the instance of, and I'm not saying I have all the answers to the issues of foreign policy or the issues of the treatment of workers. However, when it comes to the simple ownership of the means of production not being to the workers, there's nothing violent about it, there's nothing wrong with it, and there's nothing all that harmful. If you're not allowing your workers to go home, you're working them over 24 hours, which is illegal, by the way, and you're doing all those things, then yes, I do have objection with it. And there are labor protection laws, and if people aren't enforcing the laws, then maybe the problem is government instead of the simple ideal of capitalism. And hell, I'd rather be an anarchist than like an ANCAP than this ideal that everything's publicly owned, which is probably going to create problems to begin with. And I would rather than land being supposedly publicly owned, and yeah, I'll leave it at that. And after this, after your next point, because you and I seem to very much disagree on the other issues at hand, and I want to give those the time to hash out with you too. So you can go ahead.
Yeah, sure. All right. Right. So, unions. Firstly, it's true unions exist, but what happens under capitalism with unions is that the wealthy, they see the rising threat of workers when they unify, and workers unifying against their bosses. That's not a facet of capitalism. That's a very much left-wing, anti-capitalist sentiment. Hence, when when capitalists decide that they can't stomach the idea of workers having more power, when they go against it, they curtail the rights of unions. Look at what Reagan did to unions. Look at how vehemently he's loathed in so many working communities. It's not something which is an argument for capitalism. It's saying that unions exists, so capitalism aside. Unions exist in spite of capitalism, because the conditions that capitalists give workers is, by nature of the system, the least they can. They want to pay their workers as little as they can, so they can maximize their profits. Hence you need regulation, because otherwise the capitalist would literally give them as like next to nothing. You need working regulations and fairness and stuff, quote unquote fairness, because if you don't, the working the capitalist is going to try and curtail that, and even today it's not enough. I mean, look at how many states in America and even in the UK fail to give workers a living wage. They give them what they can, what they're legally required to, and nothing more. And even living on the living wage, it's hardly lots. It's like enough to pay rent and have some meal maybe. The amount of people in the first world missing meals because they can't afford their rent or their healthcare is horrific. Let's talk about foreign policy. Why do you think it happens? Why do you think the wealthy and corporations and governments wish to bombard the third world with invasion? It's not because they're evil, not because they're comic book villains. It's because it makes money. Look at how wealthy defense contractors and senior politicians and corporations got once the US invaded Afghanistan and Iraq. Look at what happened to the Middle East when that happened. Look at who possessed the oil when this happened. These things, they aren't happening because of evil people or individuals. They happen because of the desire to commodify further elements of society, to make profits and increase profits even more and accrue more capital. They happen because of the inherent need to continuously grow under capitalism. They don't just happen. It's not in contradiction to capitalism. It's a fundamental part of capitalism. It's about consolidating that power, and subsequently, if it happens to invade another country, to do so, it's that's even better, because it's like controlling more power of America every step along the way. America, a capitalist nation, it seeks to destroy the world around it. Like, why do you think what's it called? Why do you think so many countries in Latin America get repeatedly invaded and destroyed by the US? It's not because the US is just inherently evil, because of capitalism. Because if they are having control, have more deregulated nations, they make more money, they have more capital, they have more power. It's about that system. You can't honestly say to me that it's not caused by capitalism, because fundamentally it's following the ideals of the system.
All right. Well, I'll actually say that it was more by the Truman Doctrine and the idea of the containment, because the foreign policy states to try and prevent the spread of communism from beyond places where it is already happening. Yes.
Why is it trying to contain anti-capitalism? Now, obviously, I'm not going to say that the USSR was communist, of course. I'm not going to condone their nations, of course. But why do you think they talk of containment?
They viewed those, and I'll put in quotes to appease you here, these communist or socialist nations they viewed as a threat to the lives of people. That's why when they had all those propaganda, hang on a second, these propaganda posters saying that it threatens the lives of people. Now, I ain't saying I endorse the Red Scare. I think it was way overblown, and basically that I think that the best way to argue for capitalism is to show these left-wing anti-capitalist nations that we can do better. That instead of wasting our money, overthrowing these nations, executing people, trying to say, oh no, our system's going to be the way or everyone's way or the highway. How about we show these anti-capitalist nations that we do better than them every step of the way? And hey, I would also like to point out that the people that you say that the people that I'm not trying to misquote you, but the people who ordered these invasions of these nations, no, they are evil. Nixon, with the overthrow of the Chilean government in 1973, Nixon was a piece of shit. I know you're not. I know you're not saying, "Oh, Nixon was fine." I'm just going to be aware. Like, I know you don't like him, but it's understandable with Kissinger and Nixon being war criminals. And I sent you a link the last time we had a stream where of lists of war crimes committed by presidents of the United States, and if the Nuremberg laws were applied, they'd be executed, rightfully so. But yeah, but like.
I didn't say they were evil, like, you know, the devil or something. I said they weren't inherently evil. You know, they're not desire to cause misery. They're products of a system, and that system is capitalism. Now, what you're saying about containment of, you know, anti-capitalism is done to protect capitalism. America doesn't care about its, you know, its people. Look at at the same time the you know, these technolizer people posters are going up. They still, you know, didn't have rights for half their populace. Basically, they didn't have basic discrimination laws against you know, against poor black people and stuff. They had basic you know, basic flaws in their, you know, protections of people, and yet they have the audacity to say, oh well, we need to protect the world from threats against people. Is rubbish. Look at what they did to nations that you know, didn't adhere to their ways. They didn't just do it because they were protecting people. You know, that's clearly not the case. They did it because they're protecting the interest of capitalism, protecting the rich. They're using their power to protect their power further by, you know, adding more to it and crushing their enemies. And their enemies are, you know, simply people who wish to create a fairer society. It's not coming because of, you know, people being protected. It's coming through, you know, the inherent, you know, the need for more, for power under capitalism. You know, foreign policy is created in a world of capitalism. It's about making that money. And what you're saying about, oh, I tell left-leaning countries, oh, well, you could be better like us, it's just insulting, really, isn't it? Because imagine. Sorry?
No, I wouldn't. Okay, maybe I wouldn't say, "Oh, haha, your countries suck. We're better." I'd simply say, "All right, you don't like our economic policies. All right, let's have a showdown. Essentially, not like a duel where we'll have the president of the United States and the president of an anti-capitalist nation duke it out, but have a test and account for all variables." And that's one way. There could be other ways, but that's one way I'd put it. But I'd also point out that after the Truman Doctrine, with the fighting with containing anti-capitalism, he saw the hypocrisy with also when World War II was being fought against racism and inequality, that they saw racism and inequality at home, dealing with the obvious hypocrisy. So President Truman signed an executive order barring racial segregationism in the armed forces. And Presidents Eisenhower and Kennedy desegregated schools using executive orders with the National Guard of the respective states.
That still doesn't change that their message of, oh, we're protecting people by stopping quote unquote communism from spreading. That still doesn't change that ultimately serves the purpose of protecting capitalism and enforcing capitalism. You know, it doesn't matter that they're saying, oh, well, imagine like if you're in what's it called? In like El Salvador and Guatemala, and you've had US-backed forces come and like murder your family, and then someone says, "Well, actually, back home, we've helped black people gain their rights that they should have had anyway." It's not exactly like, that doesn't mean anything, does it? But you know, ultimately, you ultimately need to see that the overall point of what the whole thing I've sort of said about environment, about, you know, corporations, about, you know, rights, foreign policy, all of it. It's all, you know, it all takes place under a system of power and of, you know, keeping control and of maintaining your capital. And subsequently, if you want to change that system, you've got to move beyond the system that is causing that, and that's capitalism, where commodity can be anything, where you've got to make profit, you've got to keep building your capital, and thus anything goes. And for all you want to place limits on that, and for all you want to say, no, we do this the correct way, you're always going to be beaten out by someone who wants to commodify more, make more money, and, you know, you got to ultimately overthrow it. And I think we can probably move on to another thing I want to do because it's quite late here.
All right. But yeah, like I said, I think socialism will be the superior system if they don't change. But I know you'll disagree. Okay. So when it comes to immigration, because that's an issue, you always say no, humans illegal. Uh, when it comes down to it, if you want to enter a nation, you have to enter with their consent. And if you don't, you knowingly broke a law, whether you like the law or not. And you'd have to live off the grid essentially because you risk being deported. You can't call for help. You can't have your name signed to anything. Um, and at the end of the day, I'm not going to say, oh yeah, our immigration system is just the best, but I'd like to make the process easier, like streamline it. I would deport any and all illegal immigrants, but I would give amnesty to any and all who came to the nation for the reason of natural disaster or warfare. If they left those nations because of those two reasons, I'd grant them amnesty. With people that just enter illegally and they've not stated a reason as to why, they get deported. Or they have this option. They'll do 2 years of military service to become citizens and pay a small fine. But I would go with the small fine option if, for instance, let's say they entered the United States illegally, I don't know, 30 years ago. I would put a statute of limitations on it and say, we won't arrest you or deport you, but you pay the fine and we'll leave you the hell alone. I don't see having a policy where, like, I'm glad you at least are consistent with your with your whole no humans illegal idea. At least you're consistent with it throughout the world. But I will say that you don't. It's not a right to be able to enter a nation. If they say no, there probably is a standard as to why they said no. I am not like it takes 30 years to become a citizen for some people. I say that is of course bullshit and should be changed and should be dealt with. And at the end of the day, if you came to the United States illegally, Owen, I'd say, sorry, you broke the law, therefore you should be sent back to the United Kingdom. If you came here legally, I'd say welcome to America. Let's debunk some conspiracy theory myths about America and about how it supposedly is a horrible place that's just this horrible place to live. And if you're not a white cis straight man, you're probably going to be executed within 10 seconds of getting off the plane. You go ahead with your opening statement on immigration.
I feel as though we come from when I talk about immigration and stuff, it's somewhat different from, I'm not a liberal. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, we should just, everyone is, all nations are equal and stuff. What I am saying is that we should not have borders and nations. We should have a, planet of workers and with freedom to move around and stuff. But firstly, I think it's important to say that what is different between you and a Mexican or a Guatemalan or me, for instance. I mean, yeah, we have different nationalities and maybe different accents and stuff, but intrinsically, what is different? If someone, if an alien was looking at our bodies and stuff, we're both humans, yeah? So what's different between us?
Well, there's obviously the different characteristics, but I know that's not what you're looking for. There wouldn't be all that much of a difference. However, the difference is whether or not they came to a place where they want to be.
So ignoring that for a second, we're both
okay.
We're humans, okay. Yeah.
Yes.
If someone says, if like an alien saying, yeah, they've got different features, like I've got dark hair. I don't know what color your hair is, but
it's dark brown. It looks black. It looks black, but it's dark brown.
But it's straight, isn't it? It's straight hair.
Yes.
You're white. I'm black. I'm a little bit like an inch taller than you or something. Like
I'm 5'11".
Yeah, and I'm 6'9", so it's like an inch taller then.
Lucky.
It's like it's minor things. It's interspecies differences. Like imagine a cat with stripes compared to a cat without. It's basically just like that. There's no difference, between us. Therefore, based on where we're born, why should you or me receive more than the other person? Why should that divide us?
I'm not using race or any characteristic to divide us. I use where you came from as something that will set us apart. And I'm not.
Because if you come here without the consent, then I would say that it's an insult to the people that tried to come with the
Without the
consent.
consent.
What?
Without the consent.
Hang on a
Really?
second.
Without the consent. Hello? Oh, he said hang on, didn't he?
Yeah, I did. I just had to. Okay.
No worries.
Okay.
So what do you mean without the consent?
Like the government's approval. I would say that if you
earlier on in this conversation, you said the government was full of false politicians and quote unquote corporatists.
well, I have no choice but to abide by them. Now, do I?
Okay,
And,
so firstly, then, based on that alone, surely you shouldn't be going off their judgment, and surely you should be, not thinking that we should listen to a system that clearly isn't, by your own words, a fair or just one.
Well, I wouldn't. Well, okay. When it comes to the when I mentioned plastic politicians, some are and some aren't, and I'd say that the policy ideas, but because we have them in the office and they're voting yay or nay on legislation, I have no choice but to abide by their laws, or guess where I'm going? To prison.
Yes, but you can still you can still say that a law, you can still recognize a law, but then still not agree with it, and thus not follow the logic of the law. Thus, going back to what I was saying, if the government is not just in its actions, why are you then condemning immigrants who don't come with documents as bad simply for not being from the country and not abiding by those laws?
And well, there's a reason why they would be documented. Like okay, so if for instance, if you're killed, how are we going to be able to tell your family, oh yeah, you just died in this country if we don't have you documented? And well, like I used to be of this whole instance where we should have open borders, but that doesn't really work for the other nations, so it won't work here.
What do you mean it doesn't work?
But I'll say that with the issue of abiding by laws, like there's some laws I don't like, but I have to abide by. But if I could change it or find a way to change it, then absolutely I would. I would make it much easier for immigrants to come to this country. I'm not saying that they shouldn't be able to. Period. I want people to come here, but they have to do it my way. Well, I guess my way or is to go through the process. And if you're not willing to go through the process, well, too bad. I don't.
Talking about police immigrants here, though, and what we're both in agreement to varying degrees, but we're in agreement.
I'm not. Yeah.
The law is not in this instance just. There's not a justice in saying, oh, you are less deserving of being in this area based on what you didn't come to the nation through the ridiculous horrific system that essentially just forgets about people, and you need to have wealth to get in, basically. You got to look at the whole picture. That's just on a basic level. We got to go back to what I was saying. If there's no difference between each other, if there's no difference in you and someone who's born, if you're born in the most southerly part of Texas and then someone else is born, a few miles south of that in Mexico, what difference is there? What difference is there? And then all of a sudden you're going to deny someone the access to this area based on the fact that there's a what's it called, a border, an artificial construct of human invention. You got to realize that people are more important than these ideas of the world, these ideas of how we divide up land. Every single person has intrinsic value, and the only reason people flock to first world countries is because the conditions there are better through the colonialism and imperialism that has been forced upon the rest of the world. So you got to ask, is it humane to do this and stuff? Just quickly, I think you should remove Brandon Paget as a moderator, whoever it is, because he doesn't appear to be of the most mature fruition. They appear to be
abusing that. Yeah, sure. All right.
And you can tell them to stop they're trying to kick out Esper from the chat, I think.
Oh, he's doing that. Oh, sorry for that, Esper. Okay, now the messages I think have been restored. Let me see. Okay. Esper as a comment insulted calling JJ a pussy, so that's very eloquent right there. Okay, well
Has he called him that?
Okay, well there's a chat message I just pulled up on my phone saying at JJ Skinner laws can be changed. Do you agree with the law? You're just too pussy to admit it. After says JJ says oh god, the chat here has been very interesting. Just like your first one with War Corps, with the insults that people used on you on the chat. But
I can't see. Oh, one that got removed, maybe.
Yeah, it was removed. Is what I was saying.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's more adopting the language of the somewhat immature JJ and Brandon.
I wouldn't adopt the language of a racist to.
Of course.
So I'm just saying, like,
it's a little bit different. Anyhow, we're getting sidetracked.
Okay, yeah. Back to the issue at hand.
Yeah.
Like, I'm totally fine with compassionate immigration on the issue with.
But why isn't all immigration compassionate? Everyone who immigrates, they're trying to survive, as even for themselves or their family, but they're trying to survive. They're trying to keep themselves going in a world that does not care, a free market that sees them as a commodity. And based on that alone, and based on the fact that people, matter as just people in themselves, what kind of world is it where we say, no, you cannot come into our land because you weren't from this country and you didn't have the money to come here?
Well, okay.
That's not freedom. That's not fair.
Well, but okay, so I'll say that, like, what I mean by compassionate is in the terms of like the context of why you're coming over here. If you came over here because like a natural disaster or what's the other one I'm trying to remember? A natural disaster or warfare. Yeah, I'd make an exception. And
sorry to cut you off. Your mod just deleted every single comment Esper made.
Who?
I'm guessing someone who has moderation powers.
Oh.
It's almost like he shouldn't give moderation powers to Brandon. Who is Brandon Padgett anyway? Is he like a friend of yours?
You remember the guy who made that?
Mr. Insanity is also a mod, so
it's the same person.
He's got two accounts.
I thought he deleted the other one. I forgot that he had those two, but I forgot that I gave the mod thing to it. But yeah, I don't give it to random people. But
you've chosen a bad mod.
Well, he says Esper was calling JJ a pussy. Well, I mean, I've seen you guys say messed up things about me and Owen in the chat. Obviously, it's joking, but so I think JJ can take the what does my generation say? The L, yes, the L, yes.
But I agree with Brandon. He was being quite rude with JJ, who earlier on, what was it he said? A pansy, oh dear. Anyway,
God. But okay, but okay. I'll look at the chat on my phone, but I'm just going to focus on the hangout here. But yeah, okay. I just lost my. What were you trying to say? Because I said warfare and natural disasters are an exception, and there's been cases where presidents like Ronald Reagan, someone like him, who is I would say a war criminal and rather a terrible president, gave amnesty to 3 million illegal immigrants, and that's insane. That someone like him from a political party, which since the 60s has moved way further to the political right, has it was interesting to see that someone like him would give them amnesty.
What does that have to do with what we're saying here?
I'm just bringing up an example of some answers to the issues of the issue of
was the issue of immigration with trying to be compassionate to people. Like people want amnesty for all the illegal immigrants that are 11 million we have to deal with in the United States, and people are suggesting that. However, I would say if we do give them amnesty, that'd be the last time. But in cases like amnesty, if we use it in the terms of natural disasters and warfare, like you'll die if we don't let you in. That is because I'm trying to meet you halfway here in this whole thing. I'm not like saying I have all the I don't have all the answers to every single issue, but
of course, but it's not asking too much to think about the.
Well, I am. I have thought about these ideas because
I'm not saying you.
I know, and I get you.
Anyhow, let's go back to what we're saying. Instead of saying amnesty, we've got to look at the cause. I mean, we already sort of discussed why foreign policy happens, and why it stems from capitalism and stuff, and the free market, and why things happen like that. Regardless, though, you got to ask why is it the warfare and stuff and natural disasters. As a Mexi video, Mexi is someone you should all be watching, a very good YouTuber. As she recently pointed out, it's human-caused disasters or humanitarian crises that are caused by a free market which does not care, basically. Obviously, the physical effect of like the earthquake or volcano or something, that is the natural element of it. But the way it affects people, the way it's the human effects that are caused and worsened by the natural disaster, that's on the system. That's on capitalism and stuff. You got to address the root cause and stuff. But going back right the way back to the whole immigration point, it's got to be why are some people not deserving of just why are people restricted from going to an area? Why should just where you're born determine your quality of life?
Well, it's not just that, but
it is just that though, isn't it? Because if I'm born in America, I'm an American citizen, but if I'm not, I'm not. That's just a line in the ground, and that determines where my nationality is. Is that not a silly way of doing it? Is that not?
No, not really. And
why is it not? It's chance then. It's just chance whether you get a decent life or not in many situations. Is that fair?
Yeah. I'm not saying it's perfect, but I'd say that in this life, I'm sorry.
It's far from perfect. Do you think it's a good idea for people to be suffering based on chance? Based on where they're born, that shouldn't be determining whether no one should be suffering, especially not on something like random like that.
I would say that no one should suffer, but those circumstances are out of our control, and
so why let's change the thing that is in our control, which is the border, the nation, the idea that people born in one nation are more deserving of things than other people.
The reason they have those borders and we have caps on how many people we allow into the country every year, and I'd be glad that there is a cap so we don't overwhelm the people with the idea of let's say, I don't know, 50,000 people storm the border at once trying to enter the United States. Let's say we had 50,000 a year from whatever country that would fit with. I would say at least 50,000 maybe per however often that can work, so you don't overwhelm the people. And I will say that I don't like anti-immigration people, period, like the anti-immigration period with the whole, the non-whites are invading the United States. Obviously, I think that's stupid. Obviously it is a horrible idea to just say, they're invading. No, you're not. Obviously it's not. But coming back to it, based on where you're born, I would say that doesn't matter. I don't care if you were born in Norway, you want to come to America, or if you're born in some South American nation. Doesn't matter. You want to come here, you have to do it.
Can you name a South American nation?
A South American nation?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, sure.
It wasn't actually to do anything. I just curious.
Oh well, yes, I can name a South American nation. There's Chile. There's Venezuela.
Yeah.
I'm not going to name all of them because you get the point, and I know you're...
it wasn't to do anything. I was just anyway.
Yes, but yeah, you get the idea with what I meant. But yeah.
Right. if you can see that people shouldn't be having a worse life just based on where they're born, why do you then think it's okay to bar people from coming in based on where they're born, based on the fact they couldn't afford the ridiculous criteria to be able to get into the region? You talk about, there's not limited, you can only let in a certain amount of people at a time. Well, if wealth was divided fairly, if means production were not privately owned, there'd be more than enough. There's no way we don't have enough space in the US or in the UK or in any of these nations. And in fact, people would not be coming. So, people would not be blocking and coming here so much if the conditions of the world were fairer. If there wasn't such imperialism and colonialism forced upon the rest of the world. But that's why. So it's not just a question of compassion. It's about analysing the system and saying, no, it's not fair for these borders to be in place and for the capitalist system to be exploiting the rest of the globe.
Okay. 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 Yeah, we have 7 billion people on this planet. That's too many to begin with.
No, it's not. Why is it too much?
Well, one, it's the intelligence of humanity, and two,
the intelligence.
Well, humans are inherently stupid with the decisions they make. But I digress. But to get to your point,
stupid. That's quite ableist. That's quite eugenics almost sounding as well, isn't it? You think about it.
I don't say, oh, you're race. I'm not a race realist. I think that's even dumber. That's
how can you say that people are inherently stupid?
Simply by the choices they make, and we all make stupid. When they know to do the right thing, but they don't, or at least they don't try. But
what do you mean by that?
All right, let's say. I mean, it can be a case by case basis, but
give an example.
Okay, let's say for instance I had an assignment to do, and let's say I had the weekend to do it, but I just procrastinated, and I knew, you got to get that done, but I don't get it done, then I was a moron for not getting it done, and I at least.
But why would that make you inherently stupid?
Some people are just natural procrastinators, and in that case,
why would that make you inherently stupid though? It might be naive to put off your project until the last day, you're not doing it, sort of thing. But why does that mean you are inherently, ridiculously stupid person?
If I'm the type of person that continues to do that type of thing, and I don't try to make a change, and maybe the words were wrong, maybe I should have phrased it better, and I think you'll agree that maybe I should have phrased it better. Yeah, some humans are very stupid. Some are because of genetics, like they're mentally handicapped, and that's not to be mean to them.
Well, that's not a great thing to say. Inherently stupid. Mental handicaps aren't. There's no way of measuring intelligence in a person.
Then how would they qualify as disabled? Then how do you qualify them as disabled without using?
Well, there's still disabilities, but that's not the same thing as intelligence. Like a person, look at Stephen Hawkins. He was unable to use a lot of his. He couldn't use his body, but he's a professor in physics. Look at people who have ADHD or autism or just behavioral disorders and stuff.
Well, the behavioral disorders don't make them stupid. Like.
Exactly. These things can all. So for instance, that assignment you were talking about earlier, that might not have been done because they have to, they find it hard to concentrate. They could have been perfectly able to do that maths or write that English project, but their disorder meant they didn't. They put other stuff first. That doesn't mean they're stupid. It doesn't mean they're incapable of doing it. But based on that logic, that's that's lost on that sort of phrasing it. Going back to what was, that's sort of why we got to phase out ableist terminology and language from our vocabulary, because we want to be realizing the mental handicaps and disabilities of physical or mental existence. They're not they don't make you lesser.
I at least am glad that because you used to be quite hypocritical with that, but I'm glad you're not anymore.
I don't think I was.
Well, I mean, you did call PJW and IMC, like you called them idiots, but I mean they are. But I digress.
That doesn't necessarily mean I was a hypocrite. It means it slipped on my tongue, and that was it's like it's when you've grown up using words it can be hard sometimes to avoid using them. Regardless,
But yeah, let's that whole
what I was
tangent
saying,
aside.
going back to what I was saying about what was it?
Population. Yes,
Yes,
population.
population. Yeah. Humanity, there's no limit to how much a species can have, and certainly on a planet where we have food being wasted abundantly, there's so much stuff we have being lost pointlessly because again, capitalism has it where we just don't we don't have any we have food just rotting because they'd rather let it rot than give it to people who need to eat. We've got enough for there to be 7, 8, 9, 10 billion even. But here we are with supposed, we've got an overpopulation problem. Rubbish. We don't have a overpopulation problem at all. We've got enough space and food for there to be so many more people in countries we have that you can fit the entire population of the globe into like the Isle of Man or like a little island in New York or something. But supposedly we have an overpopulation problem. Like, it's rubbish.
Well, you also got to account for like buildings that are there that's going to obstruct your ability to fit all those people, and
obviously
also with cars and driving, that's going to pollute the environment and hurt it. So you're telling me you care about the environment and but people who drive their cars and cause pollution, which is an issue in the state of Utah right now, among other things, that you're going to tell me you care about the environment, yet when we have all these people who drive these cars. And I'm all for doing other things like being greener. That's fine, but you're going to tell me that you care about the environment when we would have all these people with their cars causing the amount of the emissions from the exhaust fumes to go into the air, and it's already an issue right now.
How is that a valid argument? Overpopulation.
Like when we have so many people, when they're doing those things, we have a ton of people already. Like China is a disaster with their air quality, and
but why is that to do with overpopulation? Why is that not to do with the nature of business and how you have to get to work and the nature of consumption under capitalism? How you
it also ties in transportation, but not just
how are you
businesses.
How are you linking that to overpopulation?
Well, let's see. China, India, and a few other nations are the biggest.
Man.
I'm answering it. Like those nations where I'm pointing out, for instance, have China and India and Russia and all these other nations have huge chunks of people in it already. Have the biggest populations in parts of the world. When you have 1.3 billion people, I don't know the nation off the top of my head that has that many people. It's either China or India, and some nations where there's all those people, how many people? So could we have 30 billion people in the world?
Right, man, you're missing what I'm saying, and you're not making a valid argument because you're saying that the pollution is caused by the people when in reality that's not the case. It's caused by the consumption and the tools of which the people are using. It's not the people and the number of people that's the problem. It's the world around them. It's the consumption. It's the fact that they have to participate in a market which is abundantly using these unethical, harmful things. So it's not the fact that there's 1.3 billion people in China that is causing the pollution. It's the fact that their system and their methods are built upon the destruction of the land and stuff. It's not the fact that there's increasing populations in the West that is causing pollution. It's the fact that in the capitalism, the corporations and the landowners that have the wealth and the money and stuff are using these negative, harmful resources to destroy the planet. So yeah, that's what I'm saying is the argument does not support the conclusion you've made here. Thus, it is invalid.
Well, the reason I came to the conclusion is like with lower populations, they wouldn't be able to contribute as much as carbon emissions as other people do. Like, go ahead.
You've skipped over. You've gone from. But you've got your two premises. Yeah. Pollution is caused by cars consumption, energy usage and stuff, and then your second premise is. There's lots of people. The second thing is there's lots of people. There's 1.3 billion people in China. There's 7 billion people in the world. the conclusion is then people cause pollution. That's not, your premises don't follow to your conclusion. You're skipping out, the fact that there's something in between the fact there's people and the fact there's pollution, which is the consumption, the system. It's not that the people and the number of people cause the pollution. It's the fact that people exist in a society of which the consumption is unethical because of capitalism.
Okay. I'll be clear. Well, just having 7 or 10 billion people just by themselves, okay, and some people walk and some people use means of transportation. Some are public, some are private. Now, I'm not saying that they're if we get 10 billion people that if they all were to drive cars, maybe it would hurt the environment, but maybe a few driving and some don't. I don't think it might. And I'll admit maybe I do think humans do cause climate change and do cause global warming. I'm not a climate change denier, and I think that humans do have some responsibility. Not that they're entirely, but have some responsibility with climate change. And I know you believe in climate change too, so.
It's not a case of whether I believe in it. It's a case of being, observant and in knowledge of the facts, isn't it? It's not about I don't believe in gravity, or I believe in gravity. I'm aware gravity is a thing.
Yeah, and I'm glad you're aware of that too. But anyhow, to get to the because I sense that with after this there will be a few topics I think you'll be more passionate about besides immigration and capitalism. But with immigration, with people because you've mentioned population, wouldn't you say that would you the approach to if we got rid of borders, wouldn't it be easier to phase in the people that would be coming to the country, to phase them in rather than have them all hit at once?
But again, so firstly, to go back to what you were saying about cars, the idea that all 7 billion people are going to be driving cars is
that's not what I said. I said they would not all 7 billion would drive. That's something I did point out earlier. But go ahead.
Anyhow, cars. Why do people drive cars around? Why are there so much pollution in cities?
Well,
why is that the case?
I'm going to be honest with you. People are lazy. People are
lazy.
Yes, they are. People when people go shopping, they are that lazy. They will, driving a car that carries their fat ass to go to where they want to go, instead of driving 5 miles away. They're that lazy. They'll head probably down the street rather than walk, because people are afraid of exercise nowadays with how they act, with how lazy they are. Now, I'm not trying to generalize, but that's basically how society is going to turn into at this point, as people are getting too glued to technology. But I will say that some people have seen that I don't need to drive a car. New York City is so overpopulated; it's impossible to drive a car unless you're like a taxi cab driver, and then you'll be spending God knows how long trapped in an intersection dealing with a bunch of incompetent drivers and some drivers that are competent and frustrated.
Well, no, I agree that we should be, lessening our use of cars.
I get you.
In the case of the people you're talking about, the immigrants and stuff, they're not driving cars at all. Like you said, if you're living in a city, primarily you're going to be using either public transport
or
walking, or biking.
Or any method of transportation that works. You get the idea.
And you got to also consider under capitalism, you got to always go to your place of work to be making money. You got to be doing it quickly as you can. Got to be continually getting to the place where you sell your labor and stuff. Hence, there's so much concentrated populaces in cities, because that's where the money is primarily made, and where most people live, and most people work, and the most labor is needed, and thus there's going to be more pollution there. Under a better system, suddenly people aren't needing to travel en masse through cities and looting and stuff, and they can focus on doing what they want and stuff. Anyhow, moving on slightly because it's getting quite late in the UK.
Yeah,
I'm getting a little bit tired.
All right. There was the issue of fascism and Antifa and police brutality, which I think we can all cover in one swoop to deal with it. I'm feeling a little sick right now, so if I hear a sniff, but how do you want to start, or do you want me to start?
Well, we should try and.
Actually,
I'm tempted to do. Sorry.
Do you want to have the rest of the topics dealt with another time?
Yes, that would be that's what I was thinking actually. Because
that's a good idea. All right, so, all right, so I think I'll wrap it up right here. Closing statement. If you don't want to make one, we can just end it right here. But if you want to, then go ahead.
We don't really need a closing statement of such. I think it's just important to over the we talk about capitalism, we talk about quote unquote corporatism, the free market, foreign policy, environment, all these elements of society which are ultimately caused by the system we preside under, which is capitalism. And ultimately, you got to realize that whilst we have this system, everything can be linked back to it. And it's not a gotcha. It's not an attempt to, make you look silly or anything. It's about thinking about what the world is and why the world is, and attributing it to the cause.
All right. Is that the end of your statement?
Yeah. I'll try to be concise.
All right. I'll try and be concise because my opening statement was the length of the JFK movie. Okay. Well, like I said, I am. As a minarchist, I tend to see the problem as big government, overreaching government, government that they swear to support and defend the Constitution, but they shit all over the Constitution to get ahead. And I don't think I would ever argue that capitalism's fair. I don't think any system's going to be fair to anybody. Period. So I'm not saying capitalism's fair or perfect, but like I mentioned earlier, and I think this is something we will just inherently disagree on, and that's fine. But that capitalism on its worst day is better than socialism on its best day. And while I see where you come from, trust me, I almost became you last year. I see where you were coming from, but the issue...
You almost became me. Sorry to cut you off. You almost became me. What?
I meant your ideology. I almost turned into you, the anti-capitalist. I meant that. But anyway, and you're right. There is so much rubbish in this live chat right here. But nonetheless, I will say that the problem is government. I almost turned into a socialist due to some issues that were brought up. But key concerns and key questions that I couldn't find answers to, or I just couldn't find an agreement with, prevented me from doing so. And at least, if it makes you feel any better, I'm not an ANCAP. I mean, it's not fascism, but I have a problem with it too. But I will say the problem really is government and the hypocritical values that the government espouses with supporting democracy, but overthrowing democracies that aren't to the right of Milton Friedman's right lung, that are to the left of Milton Friedman's right lung. I meant, but. Yeah, at the end of the day, I do see that if capitalism doesn't shape up, I think socialism would prevail and take over. And I think that's where I will wrap it up. I do appreciate you coming on and having the chat, and I wish you well, and hopefully that cold goes away, as colds are the worst. Thank you to everyone who watched.
Look forward to doing part 6, I suppose.
Yes, and the thumbnail will be funnier. But thank you for joining, and if you want to repost this, you can do so. And thank you to everyone who watched. Thank you so much to everybody who did, and I hope to see you all next time. Have a good night, everybody.
Yeah.